Deadheads, a supplementary podcast.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Deadheads, the supplementary podcast to the main Dead Air podcast. This is the show where we discuss more recent horror movies and just jam about it. And we've got our recurring three new hosts. Well, not technically new anymore. This is our third episode, so you guys are all veterans now. So yes, please, guys, introduce yourselves. Say hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Hi, guys.
It's been a while. Yeah. Nice to see everyone.
So we've got our three hosts. Obviously, we've got Emile over here, we've got Franny in the middle, and then we've got Anthony to round it all up.
Hi.
Okay. So for this episode, this is going to be a fun one. But I don't know. I think this is going to be kind of an interesting one because I'm not sure what you guys really think about this movie. But at least we'll have a good conversation. So for this episode, the third episode of Deadheads, we're going to be talking about which movie. Let's go to Franny. What's the movie you chose, and why did you?
Okay,
choose?
so for this episode, everyone let me choose The Green Knight, and it's because I had been wanting to see this medieval retelling of the legend of the Green Knight. So we watched it.
Yeah, that's exactly why Franny chose this title. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm really interested to just jump in. So Emile, you want to give us a quick summary about what this movie is about?
Yeah.
What are the beginnings?
It's The Green Knight. It's based on the Arthurian legend of what Franny mentioned of Sir Gawain, or some people say Gawain, and the Green Knight. And the story is King Arthur and his knights are all feasting, and suddenly a Green Knight just interrupts them. And the Green Knight proposes some sort of trial or challenge that whoever faces a blow on the Green Knight will also receive the same kind of blow a year after. And so Sir Gawain decides to take the Green Knight's axe and cuts the head off the Green Knight. And without thinking, actually, I'm kind of surprised he chose to cut the head. And so a year passes, and Sir Gawain goes on this journey to meet the Green Knight so that he can fulfill his promise to the Green Knight. And throughout this journey, he goes on this trial on how to become a knight, actually. So I guess that's basically the summary of the Green Knight.
Yeah. I think that was pretty good. What do you guys think, Anthony and Franny? How would you rate Emile's summary of the Green Knight?
10 out of 10.
Wow, thank
10
you.
out of 10.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
Okay, how about some a quick background onto what's about the film's production? Who directed this movie? Are you guys familiar with this director?
David Lowery. Although
Yep.
I have heard of his Pete's Dragon, but that's the only project that I've heard of him aside from Green Knight.
I like the ghost story. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Ghost Story.
Oh, the Ghost Story. Okay, so that was his part. But yeah, I'm not really familiar with his style and all.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's definitely a surprise to me. Thinking that, well, to be honest, I was thinking that this movie was more of a dark fantasy / fantasy medieval film
Yeah.
rather than a horror film.
I totally agree. I think there's one of the big questions, and we can talk about the four of us now. Is this a horror film? It's pretty gothic for me. It's dark. It's gothic.
It has horror elements.
Definitely.
Yeah, I do have agree
definitely
with the
have-
horror elements. Yeah.
Definitely.
I do like the twist on the Green Knight because from what I've heard on the book itself, I think the Green Knight is more of a human, which was, enchanted by magic. In this movie, the Green Knight was more.
He does look like a fertility god or something.
Yeah.
So, and we all know that green in England, I think it symbolizes fertility or vegetation. So I do like the twist on that part wherein, I think that's the part wherein it delves into the horror
Yeah.
territory.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
They did a nod to pagan folklore instead of just going straightforward Arthurian,
Super. Yeah.
which I like. But well, I think it's becoming a trend nowadays. Nothing against with the cast, but I know this will be a huge trigger. Casting a South Asian actor
Mm-hmm.
for an Arthurian film.
Was there a backlash, ba? I'm curious. Was there?
I don't think it was a backlash show, but for me it was. I know it's becoming a trend nowadays that they're trying to race bend films. Films that are supposedly for white actors are getting into other races, which I don't mind because the film actually did good. But it might trigger some who are very particular into racial casting. Well, that's just my 2 cents, though. But they did pretty well. I think they have a pretty good cast, especially Ralph Ineson, the guy from The
Yeah.
Witch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
played
So
the Green Man. He did
Mhm.
really good, and
Yeah. So
he
good.
really sold into the role. And there's Alicia Vikander as well. I was surprised that Alicia Vikander played, the
Yeah.
the lady.
Yeah.
I think she played
Yeah.
2 roles.
Two roles. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Essel and then the lady. So yeah, but they have a pretty good cast, to be honest. I'm just a little skeptical with them. Doing a different cast for doing a different actor for different race of for Gawain, but Dev Patel did pretty good as well.
Yeah.
But the casting will definitely trigger some. With the culture that we have nowadays.
Sure. Well. I mean, it's probably gonna trigger the wrong kind of people.
Yeah.
I think.
agree.
I think the whiteys have had enough. Fuck the whiteys. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Why don't we go into that? Since you started out about the casting and stuff, what do you think of? Yeah. Let's start with the technical stuff before we jump into our interpretations and stuff like that. So we talked about the director, David Lowery. What did you think of his direction, Franny? You want to start?
I really like the direction. I mean, if you're like me who had to watch it about 3 times or 4 times, it starts out really enigmatic, and if you watch it at
Yeah.
night, you could like go to sleep with it. But if you give it a second chance, I took note that Anthony mentioned the pagan folklore and background, right? But at the same time, I also really like the Catholic stuff that the director added in there. I mean, at the time, the background of the legend really was during medieval Catholic times, right? Because of the
Yeah.
knight's code of honor and the values of like
Knighthood.
sacrifice
Sure.
and all that. So for me, the
Yeah.
direction
Yeah.
portrayed that really well. Like I love the scene with the mountains and the giants. There,
The
Giants.
yeah,
Giants.
there was
Yeah.
something. There was something that felt so creationistic, like theological. Like you've
Yeah.
never seen that scene before, but something about it feels so familiar, like a dream that you had, or it just feels so like primordial and like a past life or something. And for me,
Sure.
it's only a good director that could like evoke that kind of
Pull it off.
feeling in you. I don't know if you guys felt the same, but for me, that was one of the really great scenes, among others.
Yeah. Let's hear from the 824.
Yeah, I was waiting.
Fanboy over here, Emil. What did you think of this direction?
Yeah, I agree with what Franny said. That the visuals were amazing, cinematography,
Yeah.
and it's really loaded with metaphor. And I like how he said that it invokes some sort of feeling of primordial being small
Yeah.
in this
Huge.
big
yeah.
world. Because when we follow Sir Gawain, it's like he's just a teensy wincy
Yes.
knight in this huge
Yes.
world. And actually, I'd
Mhm.
like to point that out because for me, when we say is this film horror or not, I actually remember what Chris mentioned in a previous podcast that horror is subjective.
Mhm.
And for me, though this film is not it's not your typical horror film. It is dark fantasy with horror elements. I feel like the
Yeah.
horror for me is coming from that dread of feeling
Yeah,
small.
that's why I also
and
Mhm.
and because he knows that after a year his head will be cut off, and that's an ominous
Yeah.
feeling of dread, but still he goes
Yeah.
through this journey, and when he encounters all of these people, these creatures, all these events, it kind of overwhelms him, at the same time overwhelms the viewer, especially me, and it made me riveted following his journey. Will he in the end succeed or not? Will he die or not? And that for me was something great that David Lowery did, and the cast as well.
How about you, Anthony? So you've talked about the race bending and stuff, but how about like the storytelling aspect naman of David Lowery? How did you feel? Was it slow? Was it well paced? What's your opinion?
Seeing the A24 stamp on it, I have already have an anticipation of how the film would create the atmosphere. I mean, it does grow on you after. I actually rewatched it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because it grows within you. The first
Mhm.
watch, it definitely bored me a lot. I mean,
Yep.
I was about to turn it off, and then I gave it a second try, and maybe this is worth a watch. And I gave it another time, and then just to cipher all the symbolism all throughout the movie. And as someone who's really not into Arthurian fiction,
Mm.
that's definitely a good twist on the film. I like how the film ended with a cliffhanger, which gives the viewers their own depiction of the ending,
Mhm.
whether Gawain will be killed or not, or maybe Rena was just teasing him after all. But the direction, I think he did pretty well. It's good that you tend to see that film on a perspective wherein you have no idea what the director is capable of. Unlike with the previous films that we've reviewed, wherein we already have an idea of how these directors do their stuff. Now, with David Lowery, I can say that he definitely has a potential. As long as he's with the right production, then yeah, I think he's good with A24 stuff. Looking at
Yes,
how
David
he did his
A24.
Emil, have you ever not liked an A24 film?
The very first films of A24 when they were starting off. Yeah,
Okay.
but they're guilty pleasures. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
Tusk an A24 film? Is it? Yes or no?
I
Yeah,
can't
Tusk?
recall
Oh, is
Tusk.
it?
Yeah.
Oh,
love Tusk.
Oh, wow.
I loved early A24 films.
Yeah.
Tusk is insane. Ako naman, the second I see A24 now, I really know what to expect na. So it's the kind of thing now you just really have to
Put up with
know
it.
what you're getting into. Yeah, yeah, you have to know what you're getting into. Stick with it to start. You have to really listen. You have to really watch, and then it will just really,
True.
yeah, like
True.
parang you really have to have that mindset of when you go into it na parang I gotta pay attention, parang ganun. So I started this movie. I had a few beers, and I was watching in the middle of the night. I turned it on. I was like, I'm gonna watch a horror movie just before I go to sleep, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? I just couldn't concentrate, so I just stopped it after the first few minutes, and I was like, the start it looked beautiful, but I just couldn't get into it, no. And parang I really feel that you really have to commit to it before you, and then when you do, it's such a rewarding experience. I'll just be honest, no, I absolutely adore this movie. Parang it's just gorgeous for me. It's really beautiful. I super got into it kasi when I did finally parang sit down at 9 p.m. sober, turned it on, just listen. I was like, wow, I really kind of fell in love with it. How about casting wise? You touched on that, no, Anthony. I thought for me the things that stood out for me immediately, and I want to know if you guys agree with it. Is really the direction, the acting, of course, and the cinematography. Those are the three things that
Agreed.
really, really stood out for me. Fantastic cast. Anyone you want to talk about?
Sorry. Another thing, since I mentioned earlier that for me it's not a horror film because one movie comes into mind when I say dark fantasy / horror. I'm not sure if you've heard of the Headhunter movie. It's a micro budget horror / dark fantasy film. It's a horror movie with dark fantasy elements. So it's about a monster slayer or
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen that. It's like literally just one guy, diba? And he's like fighting this, like forever, and he cuts off the head. Yeah, yeah.
It's looking for the monster that killed
his daughter. Yeah, it's a good one. Good comparison. Yeah, I agree.
That's a really good dark fantasy film, and you can really tell from the atmosphere that it's heavy with horror, it's heavy with dread, it's heavy with darkness. The bleakness of the atmosphere. Comparing to The Green Knight, the reason why I mention it is because it's an opposite comparison. It's definitely a contrast because The Green Knight was more of a dark fantasy with horror elements,
Yeah.
whereas the Headhunter is a horror film with dark fantasy elements. But I like that. I like that they playfully flirt, the sides of the territory, whether it's horror or fantasy or whatever. Films are becoming like this nowadays, wherein they don't really
Stick to one genre, yeah. They
Sure.
play, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like to play genres,
Um,
which is becoming a trend, and most of them actually, do good results. And The Green Knight is one of those. It's definitely a very interesting film to watch, especially if you're into atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
and production design. But yeah, it's definitely a good film. And David Lowery is a very promising director.
Nice.
regarding the horror elements that Anthony was mentioning, for me, I like the fact that it turned into, in my opinion, a horror movie towards the end because based on the legend, the Green Knight actually lets Sir Gawain live like as a sure thing in the end, like as a reward for his for passing the tests. In
Yeah.
this movie, the director turned it into a sort of horror ending because, in my opinion, it was leaning more heavily towards him still dying because, albeit in a comedic way, right? Because it seemed slightly funny that the knight was kind to him and acknowledging the fact that he passed the test, but he still goes, now off with your head. So it's like
Yeah,
dark
yeah, yeah.
comedy horror,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's definitely not what happened in the legend. So that's what
Yeah.
I like, that it turned it, like, first it was a whole nice introspection on like life and death. I love the part where he started regretting how his life would have been if he took the cowardly route and did not go through
Yeah.
with the final task that he had to do. And then when he finally showed the courage, that's where the horror came along by like turning it all around and still making him a victim of the Green Knight.
Yeah, yeah. For me, so it's gothic. It's definitely dark fantasy. But yeah, when we say there are horror elements, for me, the horror elements that really stood out was parang just the theme of parang the inevitability of your
Yes.
death. Parang just like
Yeah,
us
yeah.
as
Yeah.
humans, like we're all
Yeah, it
gonna
gives you
die.
anxiety.
Parang it's super magnified here. It's the anxiety of
Yeah, like you're just waiting for it, right? It's like it makes you feel like you're
Exactly.
just waiting for your death. Yeah.
exactly.
So what do you do with your
exactly.
life about
Yeah.
it? So
Yeah,
before you
Yeah.
die.
yeah,
shit.
diba?
That's dark.
Super dark. It's super dark if you think about it that way. Yeah. So going back to the casting, no, why I want to laser focus on that is parang sobrang impressed with everyone. I thought Dev Patel was fantastic. But really for me, stand out for me. Everyone was fantastic, but see Vikander was super eye opening for me. That those dual roles, dude, those so hard to pull off. Those so good. But what do you guys think about how was the acting for this movie?
I like the acting. Everyone was good. As for me, I love the king and queen, Liza Arin
Mm.
and the king. For me,
She was also in The
she
Witch.
was also, she
Yeah.
was also
The
in
Witch.
For
Yeah.
me, those two actors were the strongest because they command such a nice kingly presence, and they're both so creepy, but they're so like beautiful to look at. And then Dev and the guy from Dunkirk, the guy who always plays a villain,
Yes. Yeah.
the Weasley guy. What's his name? The
The Weasley
teenager
guy.
looking guy, the one who look. Basta he's
Yeah.
so good. Like he can be a villain all the time. Like he's so good.
The scavenger was the
Yeah, yeah.
scavenger.
The one who wanted
See,
thanks.
uh,
Yeah.
Kyogen.
Yeah, Barry Keoghan.
For me, those were the
Barry Keoghan.
strongest actors. And the whoever played the
He was
fox.
good.
I love the fox.
The fact is so cute. So, what the fox, right? Like, there's that joke of A24 always having some sort of fucking animal as a metaphor. Yeah, I love
Animals
the
and
fox.
burning.
The fox is so good.
Ang galing
Yeah.
she is it a she? Sounded like a she, no? She gave
Parang
one of
it's
the
a
final
she, yeah,
tests,
yeah.
diba? Because she posed us like an
Yep.
ally and then she gave a final test na
Yep. And
turn back
yeah,
with me because you
Turn
don't
back.
have to go through this.
one
Yeah.
last temptation.
Galing eh.
How about you, Emil?
Oh yeah, while I was watching through this film, I was pleasantly surprised by the cast of genre actors and actresses. Like, hey, I know this person. I saw them from a previous film like The Witch, another A24 film, and yeah, I believe that they really stood out. They were very outstanding in their roles, and I agree with Franny that those actors that she mentioned, they really just took the roles and made it into something memorable. And yeah, Dev Patel was excellent. Race aside, I really like Dev Patel in a leading role.
Yeah, I'm a super fan
Same.
of Dev.
Love him.
I think he's
Yeah.
fantastic in everything.
True.
He super transcends
Yeah.
any role he takes up.
Super hot.
How about you, Anthony? Sino yung super hot, super hot. Totally agree. How about you, Anthony? Who's your acting MVP for this one?
Well, aside from Dev Patel, he did really good. I really like Ralph Ineson's take on the Green Man. When I check on the cast and I saw his name, oh, he's from The Witch. Okay, so I then I realized that, oh, this is definitely becoming into a horror movie because some of the actors
Yeah.
on the film are actually in horror movies. Barry Keoghan was from a Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah, the killing of a sacred deer. Yeah,
Yeah.
so good there.
Yeah, so putting some horror actors into this film definitely made me realize, oh yeah, it definitely has horror elements. But yeah, for me, it's Dev Patel. He nailed Gawain. And then also Alicia Vikander. Yeah, she actually,
So good.
her dual role, yeah, that was definitely a surprise. And of course, for me, it's Ralph Ineson playing the Green Man. He was
It's
creepy.
Vikander. No, I said Vikander. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
I'm not sure with European names.
Yeah.
It could
Anyway.
be Vikander or whatever it is. But yeah, it's Patel and Ralph Ineson for me.
Yeah.
And Alicia Vikander as well, or Vikander.
Yeah. And so those are my three things. For me immediately was the direction, the casting, and the cinematography. Parang the movie was so
Yeah,
beautiful.
the
Parang
colors.
so
Yeah.
lush.
I love it.
So lush. Yeah, yung like for example, like just the contrast of parang costumes against yung setting, the bleak setting, and then his orange. He's running in the fields, and it's so beautiful. So yeah, and then the costume design of like the crowns.
Yeah.
Now they turn them into
Yeah,
halos.
yeah.
Parang incredible. Just a beautiful, beautiful movie.
Yes. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
super gushing. I really love this movie. But so I'm like that. This comes back to my problem with like, do I consider this a horror film? Will I put this on my top 10 list? You know what I mean? Like, I would struggle. Yeah, I would struggle. Like, if it was like this could be top 10 of my films for the year, I think so.
Yeah.
It could be. But for horror films, parang I would hesitate to put it on that list.
I have one last observation lang about the colors. Diba, Gawain was always in yellow. So it was like symbolic of cowardly, cowardice, I think.
Yes.
And then the Green Knight was all
Yes,
green.
Absolutely.
And he was traveling through blue. So I don't know, like uncertainty or life or death.
Mm-hmm.
I think green is symbol of bravery.
Yeah.
I got that thing
Yeah.
from the lanterns, the DC's lanterns.
Yeah, and what Alicia Vikander's character was saying, green also stood for life, diba? Or nature. It's like how man
Nature.
always plunders nature and nature is like fighting back. And then kaya siya naging Green Knight or something.
No, I absolutely agree because I'm a super fan of color theory and choices that production makes in selecting color. Nga. really great spotting that he's always in yellow. That's exactly it, 100%.
Because he was really a
Because the
coward.
whole movie is about this cowardice. Yeah, he's a coward all the way till the
All
last
the way
5 minutes.
to
you know?
the end. Yeah, when he makes the final brave decision. Yeah.
It's really just a test if he's worthy of becoming a knight. That's really it.
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
god! And he chopped his head off because he was a coward. Because he wanted him dead. So that
Realization.
like if you kill him, the automatic thought that you won't have to deal with the problem 1 year later. Yeah. Kaya niya binihid.
Yeah, galing. Super galing. Yeah, so anything that stood out from you other than those three things that I keep talking about?
I think that's pretty
Yeah.
much it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah?
yeah.
Okay, so how maybe we can go to a wrap up then. What are your final thoughts on the film? I can kick it off now just because I just really love this movie. You probably don't love it to the degree which I do, but parang it is just so lush and so beautiful, and parang it was a whole experience for me. For me it was absolutely worth the wait because there was a lot of hype leading up to it.
True.
I expected obviously a lot like a scarier movie. I thought it was gonna be out and out horror.
Yeah.
But what I got was I think even more
Yeah.
beautiful. Actually,
Agree.
Absolutely loved it. How about you guys? Let's start with Anthony. Any last words on The Green Knight?
It definitely shows the promise that David Lowery can do for a film. With The Green Knight, it makes me wonder what his capabilities are. I think he's directing another film. I'm not sure what the film is, but yeah, I think I've heard he's directing a new film. So we'll look forward. But yeah, it's definitely a beautiful contrast of color, production design, and a great stellar cast. So it's definitely a film to watch. Although my only problem with the film is because it's a cross between dark fantasy and horror. It definitely plays in between. That's my only problem with the film. But other than that, it's definitely a great experience watching the film.
Awesome. Let's swing over to Emile. So Franny can have last words since she chose this movie. Emile, any last words on The Green Knight?
Traditionally, most people will not really say this is a horror film, but like what everyone has been saying, it's a stunning film and it's still worth a watch, definitely.
Okay.
Awesome. Franny, take us
Okay,
home.
so the same as what everyone has said, it is really a stunning film. It's one of my favorites for this year or whatever year it came from. And I really recommend it for like the introspection that it's gonna give you. And for me, it's such a good depiction of medieval Catholicism and life and death, like what we discussed also. And in terms of the mood evoked from the colors, it also reminds me of Macbeth by Justin Kurzel, 2015 or something, with Michael Fassbender.
Yep.
It's for me, it's comparable to that because it has those medieval feelings, and parang it's just so nice the way they bring it out in terms of color and feeling. So very moody and evocative of feelings. So yeah, 5 stars for The Green Knight.
5 stars for The Green Knight. Okay, that's our final word.
Nice.
Yeah. So thank you for this discussion, everyone. I'm really glad you picked this movie, Franny. We got to talk about it because I absolutely love it. I hope everyone else loves it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our discussion on The Green Knight. Thank you to the Deadheads.
Thank
Yay,
you.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you.
Episode 3 in the bag. Okay,
Yes.
We'll see you episode 4. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Sakto, pero